I'd like to take a moment to walk through some new functionality making its way to the image and the multiphoto elements. This is going to introduce the ability to add an overlay to your pictures that you're taking with a device camera. And we'll walk through a few examples just to help illustrate what's possible. On this particular image element, which we've labeled as overlay date time at top left with a border, we'll scroll down and we'll take a look at these dynamic attributes that are being applied. You'll notice that there's an overlay Android text. We have a separate one for Android as well as iOS, just to account for any differences in the platform if you're trying to access attributes which maybe have a different naming convention and or are not applicable for one platform or the other. You will have two different selections that you can make. In this case, we haven't selected the number of lines to wrap. That's the only attribute not applied here. We'll see that in another example further down below. So we have our Android text, which we've defined as a reference to the date time of this particular image itself. And so ZC metadata is actually referring to the EXIF, or the metadata related to this image. And we are then referencing this element name, so overlay date time top left, and then we're applying the date time EXIF attribute. I know that may be a lot to take in, but really what that summarizes to is that for this picture, we want to extract the date time the picture was taken, and we're going to overlay that particular data in the top left position. And so you'll see that there are a number of different choices down here. It just provides flexibility on where the overlay exists in the image itself. Top left, middle, top right, bottom left, bottom middle, bottom right. We've also set the font size to 30. If you end up setting a very small font size, it's not going to be as visible unless you really want to keep it discrete and then only see it when you zoom in. 30 is going to give you a very reasonable text overlay, which will be visible even in a thumbnail status. And so just to highlight the difference for the iOS text overlay, we've simply just referenced ZC metadata.datetime. This isn't referring to this particular image. Again, it's just to illustrate the fact that we do have flexibility between the Android and the iOS overlay. The last attribute down here is called border or background. This is to help support how the actual overlay is presented. In the examples I'm going to show you, there's no borders, but just to describe what border is, it will be white text with a black border wrapping around the text, where background will actually be like a semi-transparent background that the text sits on top, just to help it stand out a little bit better. So we'll walk through each of these briefly, and then we'll flip over to the results, which is what everybody cares about. So again, you can just see that we've set up different properties here. This one's going to bottom left. This is actually using the GPS latitude and then also including the GPS longitude. And so this will be comma separated. We have multiple references that we can include in the overlay text, so you can really get as creative as you need to be in order to make your images more valuable. This example here is just to help prove the multi-line wrapping capability without me having to enter any data into the form itself. So just some placeholder text that I've added. It will be applied on this particular element here. That was one of the attributes that I glossed over briefly above, which is number of lines to wrap. And so we do support line wrapping. This is up to the builder, and they can make the determination of how much text they actually want to print on the image. And if it exceeds that, then we'll just show that there was additional text that wasn't printed with 3 little dots that kind of finish off the sentence or the line that it's on. This does support multiphoto, and so just to show that behavior as well, we have a multiphoto element. And then lastly, we are just showing the middle position for the top. So now that we've talked through the configuration, why don't we jump over to the results. So I've gone ahead and loaded the HTML view in the sample that I've created. I'll actually just go ahead and load the images themselves. That way we get a better idea of what's happening. I'll just load one of the multi-photos, and then we'll do the GPS heading. Okay, so here, actually I'll zoom out just a little bit. Slide this down. There we go. We can see our date time has been pinned to the top left here. And again, I don't have an example of the border attribute being applied. So this is going to be what background shows. Semi-transparent, darker background, white text on top. We'll jump to the next example. Of course, I'm going to have to slide the browser up. And you can see that this is positioning the lat and lon in the bottom left corner, again with our comma as a separator. We can include, east-west, north-south if we wanted to, just to keep it, more informative, but you get the idea with that example. Here's the multi-line wrap, and so you can see here the sample was intentionally longer than 2 lines could support, and this is our indicator that there was additional text that could have been included, but was not because we only set the limit at 2 lines to wrap. And then for our multiphoto example, if we scroll down to the bottom right, you're going to see, again, we just have a different example, date timestamp at this particular latitude and longitude. And then lastly, we'll jump over to the one that's top middle. This is a directional heading, and so we're showing the 322.4 degrees. There's a true north attribute that I've also applied as well. That just helps us understand this data and interpret it correctly. So anyway, I hope that helps, and happy building.